All right. So hopefully everybody can hear and see me okay. Yeah, for some reason my chat's not working. So can you guys just kind of give me a little thumbs up? Let me know if how things sound and look. All right, so hopefully we'll get going here in just a couple of minutes, as soon as a couple other people hop on here. All right, so how does it sound and look okay, guys? I just wanted to make sure, so you can see and hear me okay. All right, so I guess if somebody can you guys just leave me a quick comment? I just want to make sure that the comment portion is working. So if you can hear and see it okay, just kind of give me a quick little thumbs up. I want to make sure. It looked like I was maybe having some problems before with the chat part, but I wanted to make sure. Okay, good. So. Yeah, and for whatever reason on my device here, I'm having a hard time, so I'm going to try to bring up the chat here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why that is. So anyway, so the camera for me is a little bit far away, so I apologize if I don't see some of the comments. I'll go back and look at it before, or look at it later on. But yeah, for whatever reason here, the chat part of it doesn't seem to be working. So anyway, why don't we go ahead and we'll kind of get started. So have any of you heard of or had any of the Filibuster bourbon? I'm kind of interested to know whether or not anybody's had that at all. So it was a newer company to me. They were nice enough to kind of reach out to me and provide me with some of these bottles to do a review of. And I thought I would do it as a live stream. I figured that would be kind of fun. So yeah, anyway, that's kind of where we're at. So hopefully you guys can see and hear okay. Everything still sounds pretty good. Good. So I can kind of see it, and again, it's a little difficult for me to see the camera part of it because my chat is, for whatever reason, not working. But anyway, so what I want to kind of start out with on this is just a couple of little tidbits or some information regarding Filibuster Distillery. So it's kind of interesting. It is a woman / minority owned distillery, which, you know, now kind of in these day and age is really cool to kind of see that, you know, women are really, well, they've been involved, but are really involved in, you know, the full process of everything, which is really nice to see that they're, you know, kind of taking the stronghold and, you know, getting into things and producing, you know, this type of, you know, whiskey. So anyway, why don't we, and then also they were, you know, I guess let me back up a little bit. So how they kind of came up with their name, I was doing a little bit of research and saw that originally they were a company that started in the DC area on the East Coast, obviously, and they were close to the capital. And well, filibuster, and I think everybody from a political standpoint has a general idea of what filibustering is. So they kind of went with that, and that became the name of the distillery based on, you know, their location at the time. They've They've actually since moved to Virginia, so not overly far away. So they kept the name, and we're still now Filibuster. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So why don't we get into the review? So I'll tell you exactly what they kind of provided me, and we'll go from there. So the very first one that they gave me was, get this. This was their Filibuster Bourbon. So this is their standard line. Just to kind of give you a little idea of this. So this is a bourbon that, according to them, is a blend of older and younger, between 4 and 6 years, and aged then in a combination of red and white wine, seasoned wine barrels prior to bottling for about 60 to 90 days. So it's aged for approximately a blend of 4 to 6 year bourbon, and then finished for an additional 60 to 90 days in a combination of the red and white wine, seasoned wine barrels. So kind of interesting. I think a lot of this is all going to be on the finish side of things, and nowadays that's a relatively kind of a hot topic, so to speak. Is that, finishing whiskeys has become a little bit of a trendy thing, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So to each their own. It adds a different element to the whiskey, and so if it's something that you enjoy, then these may be right up your alley. So why don't we get into the review now? I've got all three of them lined up here, in addition to a gin that they sent me. I won't be doing the review with that part of it, but that's not really my thing. It's more of my wife's thing. But so I let all of them sit out probably for about 15 or 20 minutes or so. So they have had a chance to kind of open up a little bit. And with them only being, the whole entire line is all 90 proof or 45% ABV. I don't know whether or not I'm going to add any water. 95 proof is kind of the range where, if you really want to start to, add a couple of drops of water just to see what that does, if it changes the flavor profile, there's enough proof there that you won't be watering it down, quite that much. So why don't we get into the very first one? So again, this is their Filibuster Bourbon. This is a 4 to 6 year blended bourbon. So I blended batch wise. Then it's finished in, again, the red and white wine barrel. So why don't we get into the review? So as you can maybe see, it's kind of a little bit on the kind of far away, but a nice kind of honey type of color to that. So being in a barrel 4 to 6 years and then finished in wine barrels, you're going to get probably a little extra color from the wine barrels. If it's a red wine, white, probably not going to get much color from that, of course. But so the most important thing, let's get into the taste. Cheers. So my initial impression is you're picking up right away the wine influence. So whether it's the red or white, that part I'm having a little bit of a difficult time picking up that part of it, but it's definitely enhanced by the wine barrels that it's aged in for the 60 to 90 days. Outside of that, you still pick up a really, really nice rye spice. So I forgot to mention before, the mash bill on this is 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% nutty barley. So a little different there. But so you're getting a really nice rye spice out of that. there is that nuttiness. You're getting it's a bit on the dry side. I kind of, when things become a little dry, I pick up that kind of nuttiness to it. So it's those two kind of, for me, kind of go hand in hand. When it gets a bit dry, I pick up a little nuttiness. Definitely the sweetness. You're getting a lot of that barrel, that wine barrel influence, which is, again, you're going to get that. It's the finished part of things. So that's what they're striving for, is to have the not only the standard bourbon profile, along with the finishing aspects of the wine barrel. So you're definitely getting that. It's sweet. You're still getting a lot of the bourbon notes. There's still the vanillas, the caramels, things along those lines. However, the wine is wanting to influence it, a fair amount, which is, again, like I said before, is what you get with a finished whiskey. So nothing wrong with that. I think people who purchase that, or why they're purchasing it, they're looking for that extra or that added flavor to what the standard whiskey may be at the time. So whether it's an American whiskey, a bourbon, a Scotch, there's all kinds of finishes, and to each their own. So again, it's a fantastic product. One that's really easy to, I would say, sip on, but you're definitely getting the vanillas, the caramel. There's all of that, again, that bourbon note with the wine barrel aged finish to it. So it's a really unique and an interesting bourbon. I really do enjoy that. So they've done a good job. Now, the one thing I do like is that these are not, proof down to 80, 85 proof. It's something that, allows for you to get a little bit of that heat. I mean, there is a little bit. It does let you know that right away you're drinking something that's got a little bit of proof to it. But not overpowering. This isn't a barrel strength or anything along those lines. It's 90 proof or 45% ABV. So it's kind of, it's there. It lets you know, it's a bourbon. So they've done a really nice job with this. The one thing I do get with a lot of finished whiskeys or bourbon, something along those lines, is a bit of a single malt kind of flavor profile to it. So it's one of those things that's a little strange, and I don't exactly know why, but I think has a lot to do with the finishing process and just kind of how it's all done. It gives me a lot of a very singular type of profile. And I think with flavored, or not, I should say flavored, but finished whiskeys, that's a lot of times what you get. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the unique, process, and it is what it is. And that's what they intend to do, is to make a quality bourbon or whiskey and then finish it to give it that little added flavor. So they've done a really nice job with this. So kudos to them. And I said 95 proof before. They are 90 proof. They're all 45% ABV. And again, guys, I apologize for not being able to comment on the chat. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be working. I was trying to check before to see if there was anything, but I don't know why it's not coming up. But anyway, so you know what? Let me add just a touch of water. I think I don't want to, overpower. I'm just going to add 3 little drops of water here. This is just filtered water, so that's three drops there. So it brings out a lot more of the sweetness and the the finishing process of that. So if it was something that you really wanted to pick up or get the enhanced flavor of what that's finished in, or just the finishing process, I'd add, a couple, 2, 3, 4 drops of water. And that's all you need. You don't need a bunch of water, to change the flavor. Just, again, like I said before, a few drops of water makes all the difference in the world. So, and I believe they said that this was, I thought it was limestone water. I believe it was. So yeah, so they, on their bottle, it says that it's, well, just to kind of give you an idea of what this is. So basically this says Filibuster Distillery is dedicated to making the finest American spirits. That means the best quality grains, limestone water from the Shenandoah, hopefully I'm saying that right, Shenandoah Valley, and our signature dual cask finishing program that mellow spirits in traditional whiskey barrels as well as wine casks. Because if we've learned one thing from American history, sometimes you've got to bend the rules to get the best results. Some say Virginia's colonists made the first corn whiskey in North America, which means bourbon's roots are right here in Old Dominion. Our whiskey follows those historic footsteps by paying homage to tradition and that pioneering spirit. And it does, they are transparent on the back of the bottle by indicating what the mash bill is. It just says Filibuster Bourbon is 75% sweet corn, 21% rye, and 4% nutty barley, aged in new charred oak casks for less than 4 years. So then they give it the dual cask spin by, or adding with the secondary rest in the California wine barrels, layering a fruity note atop of baking spice, vanilla, butterscotch. Is a freedom of expression right in your glass. So it is, you pick up all of those, again, that wine, which is the fruitiness, that's the, the sweetness of the wine barrel. So, they've done a really nice job. So, and I've done kind of the layering system here to go from their standard bourbon to a blended whiskey, and then their rye whiskey. So I wanted to finish with the rye, just because typically, as you guys all know, the rye tends to, want to be a more of a dominant type of grain. So that's kind of what I decided to do. So again, just to kind of recap this one, this is their Filibuster Bourbon, 90 proof, 45% ABV, mash bill 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% nutty barley. So finished in wine casks for anywhere from 60 to 90 days. So let's go ahead and I wish I could, and there was somebody from the distillery that was going to jump on, but unfortunately they weren't able to make it tonight. So I will eventually send them the link so that they can share it if they'd like to do that. So one other quick thing, I guess on a personal note, I did start since I don't have the 1,000 subscribers and I'm not able to do any of the super chats or anything like that, I did start a PayPal kind of link, and I'll put that in the description later on once the review and everything is done. But I just wanted to make note, in the event anybody wants to donate to the channel, feel free to do so. Also, for anybody who is here now or will be watching this on the replay, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's important. Hit the bell notification. That's important. That lets you know when I'm uploading the new videos or doing the live streams like I am now. So, and everything that you guys have done for me in terms of just watching the videos, leaving the comments, thank you very much. So I appreciate all of that very much. So with that being said, why don't we move on to what they're calling the Boondoggler Bourbon. Now, this is, according to them, let's see what this says on the back of the bottle here. So let's see. Actually, I've got a little spec sheet. This is probably going to be easier. So what this basically says is, and I'll just kind of read this to kind of give you an idea. Again, this is their Boondoggler Bourbon. So this is the Boondoggler is a wholly different approach to blending. We use a various mash bill elements, including corn, barley, and rye, and a wide selection of barrels to achieve a complex and flavorful whiskey, like nothing else out there. Our proprietary aging method includes time in new American white oak, red and white wine seasoned French oak, and I don't know what this is. Maybe this must be a wine term, but I don't know if it's Fino and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. So this is probably going to be a fairly complex, bourbon whiskey. It's got a lot of going on just based on the notes itself. So after that says the Boondoggler is neither a bourbon or a rye in a traditional sense, but combines elements of both for one of a kind taste experience. So this is going to be basically, I doubt they have, so they don't have bourbon listed on here, because this is a blend of probably bourbons and ryes, to combine the two, and then finished in 5 different, it says aged in 5 barrels. So that was what I'd kind of mentioned before. So we're dealing with an extremely finished product here. So one thing I was that I was reading before, that this was a blend that was originally done by the distillery, or the distiller, the master distiller, for himself. Then I think people probably got a little wind of it in terms of what he was doing, liked it, and now they've started kind of making this in larger quantities. So, that says a lot about, usually if you're making something for yourself and you're consuming it just on your own, you're, probably really liking that quite a bit. And then to, have other people try it and enjoy it, and then eventually make that in larger quantities, that says a lot about probably the product itself. So this was one that I was really interested to try. So why don't we go ahead and we'll kind of get into this. So again, this is a 90 proof or 45% ABV, basically blend of whiskeys, bourbon, rye, things along those lines, and then finished in several different other casks that give it the finished product. So as you can see, and what do we have as age? I don't know if we have anything on age for this one. Now, there wasn't really anything, I don't believe, mentioned regarding age. Well, it does say less than 4 years. So, so this could essentially be, 3 years. If they're saying less than 4 years, essentially what this could be would be 3 years, 11 months, and 29, 30 days, prior to being 4 years old. So they can't call it 4 years until it's hit, basically that 4-year mark. So so that's kind of that's one of the laws as far as whatever the youngest whiskey is that's going into the blend, it has to be basically signified as that. So if you've got 4, 6, 8-year blends and you want to attach an age to that, you have to have the minimum age, noted as the age factor. So anyway, so let's go ahead and we'll get into the nose of this. So really, really nice, a really, really nice nose. Sweet, like you'd expect. You're getting a lot of that. I get like a raisin or grapes, things along those kind of like lighter fruits along those lines. A little bit of like apple. But you're still getting the caramel and the vanilla. All of that stuff is still there. But a real nice kind of just like a really nice like soft herbal note to it as well. And I'm guessing that's probably the kind of like the dried fruit influence along with all of the different barreling. So, and with this being finished in several of these different type of casks, whether it's wine or sherry, whatever it may be, it's picking up a lot of those different influences. So, but really, really, really nice nose. Yeah, I pick up a lot of sweetness. Definitely caramel, some honey notes there as well. That wine factor is really, really prevalent. A lot of raisin actually, but a nice sweet nose, and you expect that to be sweet on a finished bourbon like this, especially when it's finished or finished in 5 different casks. There, it's picking up the influence from each one of those in a different way. So a really, really interesting nose to that, but really nice and sweet. And again, it's a little bit to me on the, I don't want to say, single malt, side of things. It is a little bit from that standpoint, because when I've had single malts in the past, you get that single grain influence, and a lot of times it's sweet with it being barley. Most of the time, that's sweet in itself. So with the wine influence, I pick that up quite a bit. So it kind of leaves the impression for me of this being more along the lines of what a single malt would be, but very, very enjoyable so far in terms of the nose. But let's the most important part. Let's give this a try. Cheers, guys. Well, I would say for sure the one thing I do pick up with the finish part of it is that sherry part of it. It's right there, right on the front of the palate. It kind of hits you right away, lets you know that this is a really strongly finished whiskey, and that's fantastic. I really, really enjoy that. Just being able to sip on something like this, knowing what it is important. A lot of people don't understand, I think, what the finishing part of things really does to a whiskey. I mean, by taking that bourbon or whiskey, or blending it and then finishing these in whatever the barrel, may be, you're getting it, a really strong influence of whatever that finishes, in, especially if it's a strong like red wine, sherry cask, things along those lines, stuff that you're picking up a lot of, big, bold flavors, then it picks that up, and this is what you've got, the combination of that, fantastic. So, kudos to them again for, making a really, really nice product. So let's just try this again. Yeah, definitely picking up a lot of the, softer dried fruits from the standpoint of, grapes, apples, a little bit of, even a little bit of pear is there as well. Really nice kind of combination of things are there. It's a lot kind of going on. Finish is maybe, on the medium side. It drinks really, you always hate to use the term smooth, but it drinks really, really smoothly. I mean, it's just a nice, I would say, I don't want to say necessarily, dessert, type of whiskey, but, it kind of is with it having this much, finished influence. It's something that could be almost like an after dinner type of sipping whiskey. Nice and sweet, very approachable. not overpowering by any means, 90 proof. You know, they've done a really nice job. So, you know, it's one that I would like to have around for a while, and just, you know, something that's nice and easy to sip on at the end of the night. You know, nothing, if you're not looking for anything, you know, super overpowering or anything like that. So they've done a fantastic job. Now, like I did with the other one, let me add in just to see what we have. I'm just going to do, again, 4 drops. Actually, I think I did 3 drops before, so let's do that. We'll do 3 drops, and let's see what this does. So, yeah, so it's probably just enhancing, I would say, the sweetness, the finishing part of you know, what this is. So very, very nice. But sweet, like you'd expect. You know, it's all very, very sweet. So, and like I wanted to say before, so guys, right now, unfortunately, the chat part of this for me isn't working. I'm streaming it from my phone, so I'm not trying to, you know, ignore anybody. So I just can't see the phone. I can see a few messages popping up, but the chat part of it, for whatever reason, has kind of stopped working, so I can't respond. So I'll try to, you know, go back and watch it later on, and maybe even, you know, give you guys some shout outs. So, but I appreciate everybody for tuning in. So hopefully everybody is liking the review so far. I guess I'm curious to know, like I started out with before, was has anybody either heard of or had the Filibuster? And if you're on the East Coast, like in the Virginia area, have any of you, you know, had it? And, you know, leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. So I'm always interested to know, with the whiskeys that I'm reviewing, especially some of the, you know, some that aren't the big boys, so to speak, distilleries. I'm always interested if anybody either lives in the area or has had it. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody is gonna hop into the chat tonight in order to answer any questions. I tried to get somebody in, but they were just busy with some other things, unfortunately. So they may be able to go back in later on and leave some comments. But I was just kind of curious whether or not anybody has ever either heard of or had any of their line, and if so, you know, leave a comment. So anyway, let's see what the little bit of the water does to the taste on this. Again, the nose didn't change it too much. It got a little bit sweeter, but that's expected to happen when you add a little bit of water. Yeah, still a lot of that heavy sherry kind of influence is kind of coming through to me. Yeah, really, really nice from the standpoint of just, you know, it is what it is. It's a finished whiskey in several different type of casks. It's a very quality product. You can taste the quality. There's nothing that's giving the impression of youth there. You're not getting a lot of any type of grassy notes. Now, again, with the finishing part of it, you know, sometimes may tend to, you know, mask that a little bit. However, you can't mask the quality of something. When people are using quality products, you can taste it. I mean, probably everybody who's here or watching right now, you know, you guys know what quality is. And when you've got a quality product, you know it. And they're not, you know, skimping on the quality of the grains that they're putting in here. They're doing this right. You know, a lot of times with some of the craft distilleries, it can be very, you know, hit or miss. And when they're not aging their product long enough and putting it out into the market and it's a year old or something along those lines, to me, that's a huge mistake. I mean, I know that the companies need to make money, and generally that's done so through clear spirits, just to kind of continue to allow the brown spirits to continue to age while they're making some money with the vodkas and the gins and things along those lines. But again, you can tell they're using quality products. Everything that you're tasting tastes fantastic. And to finish bourbon is not cheap. I mean, to purchase all the casks, not only for the whiskey itself, but then to finish them in several different other, casks, barrels, whatever you want to call it, is expensive. So there's a huge expense for doing, this with whiskey, and you can really tell that they've put the time and the effort into producing a very quality product. So I'll be interested to go back later on and see all the comments and whether or not you've had it or not. So I'm a little disappointed that unfortunately the chat part of this wasn't working. I'm gonna have to figure out why that is. But anyway, so let me just go back to this. I want to take another little sip of that. Yeah, just really, really smooth. I mean, so far, I'm really, really enjoying the complexity of what's going on with all the different flavor in that. It's not something that you get very often, especially in the bourbon whiskey community. You don't get a lot of, multiple finishing of bourbons. You might get a, single cask that's finished in, whatever it may be. But for a whiskey to be not only a blend, so we've got probably, a bit of, whatever the bourbon and the rye, things along those lines, and then finished in several different casks. It's not something you get very often. And maybe in the Scotch world, I'm not by any means a Scotch expert at all, but I don't know if this is more common in the Scotch world for there to be multiple finishing processes with the whiskey. I don't know that, but a fantastic whiskey. So again, I don't know what their distribution is. They are an East Coast based distillery out of Virginia, so I don't know how far they distribute or what the availability is online, whether you can purchase directly from the distillery or not. But I will eventually have a link in the description below. So if you want to, go check them out or look at maybe buying something, feel free to do so. But I would so far highly recommend, both of them. And again, that has nothing to do with, them sending the bottles to me. I mean, I'm giving my unbiased opinion. If I didn't like it, I may not come out and just say, hey, I don't like this. But I would give a different opinion of what, my thoughts are with that. But with these both so far in the finishing part of it, I really like this, and I really, really liked the finishing part on the Boondoggler whiskey. It's really, really unique and different. So again, I'll be interested to see, later on whether or not there was anybody that had tried any of this at all. So anyway, so I'm really kind of disappointed that the chat part isn't working right. So, but anyway, so I'll go back and I'll read some of the stuff later on once I'm done with everything. So why don't we go on to, so now this is going to be their rye whiskey. So I don't know, and it didn't say, I don't think, on the bottle here. Yeah, it doesn't give an indication of age. We know the mash bill. This is a 95% rye and a 5% malted barley. So, a fairly, higher rye whiskey, if that makes any sense. But again, so their whole, you know, kind of, you know, process is the finishing of things, which is unique in itself. I mean, it seems like all of their stuff so far is finished, including their gin. They did send me a gin, but again, like I said before, that's really more of my wife's thing. I'm not a clear spirits person, but anyway, so why don't we'll jump over to the rye whiskey, and just to kind of give you a little idea of what this is. So anyway, so this is what it kind of says about their rye whiskey. It says a little aeration time coaxes out a mellow vanilla scent. As with its bourbon counterpart, this rye is aged in American oak casks, then finished in white wine seasoned French oak barrels. So that, again, now you're going to start to pick up, again, probably some of that fruitiness. It's going to want to, you know, kind of take over a little bit. So the result is a soft feel and honeyed fruit notes spiced with cinnamon and nutmeg. So I'm not always a fan of being able to, or reading the tasting notes of things, because I like to try to taste it myself without being influenced. But, you know, you kind of had an idea of where that was going to go just based on the mash bill and then the finishing process. So, and then after that, let's see, what else does it say? Yeah, so it says, oh, when these 2 to 3 year old French oak barrels are emptied. So now those are the, you know, whatever is, you know, the wine that's in the French oak barrels are emptied, and our rye goes in for its dual cask aging period. The result is a rich, round, velvety smooth rye whiskey with none of the harsh, grassy, which I was talking about before, character that sometimes can detract from the enjoyment of rye, which is very much the case. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be rye, but the rye spice and it being, if it is, you know, younger, it's magnified even more so from the youngness side of things. It really gets that grassy, that hay note, and to me, it's not very enjoyable, you know, whatsoever. So I'll be really interested to kind of see what this is. Not only neat, but with a little bit of water in it as well. So again, their rye whiskey, it's again 90 proof, 45% ABV, 95% rye, 5% malted barley. So, all right, let's go ahead and we'll get into, again, the color. A lot of the colors are very, very similar. You know, kind of a dark, you know, honey type of hue, or a kind of a light bronzish color. So let's see what the nose has for this. Well, you definitely get hit with a really nice kind of sweet, you know, rye spice. So you can tell that, you know, with these being finished in that French oak, you know, barrel, which I believe is going to be more of a white wine type of influence, I believe. And if somebody knows more about that, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that these are finished in French oak, which I believe is going to then hold, you know, maybe white wine or something along those lines. So Eric Waite, he'd probably know, and I don't know if Eric's in here or not right now, but Eric would probably have a really good idea of, you know, what typically is finished in white oak barrels. So I'd be interested to know. So if you guys know that, you know, leave me a comment on that as well. I'd be really interested to know, you know, what that typically is. So yeah, because it says when these 2 to 3 year old French oak barrels are emptied and our rye goes in for its dual cask aging period. So yeah, I'd be really interested to know what's holding, or what the French oak is holding. So yeah, you get a really upfront, you get a really nice sweetness. Again, you're getting a lot of that sweet rye spice that's there. You're not getting hit with a lot of, you know, alcohol burn on the nose. Boy, a really nice nose. You're picking up a lot of that kind of, we'll just call it like white fruit, not white fruit, but you know, the grape, the the apple, the pear, a lot of that kind of fruit influences what I'm picking up. It's more of a what you would think of if you're smelling like a white wine. It's usually, nice and sweet and crisp. You're picking that up, with that. So I can see, I saw Richie. I recognize his emblem. So hey, Richie. I wish I could see a bunch of everybody else that's there. I think I think Chris is here too. So I wish I could see that far. I'm clearly going to have to get some different glasses pretty soon because I'm once you start getting older, maybe some of you guys can attest to that. You can barely see anything anymore. So, but anyway, I digress. So, but yeah, with this, you're getting a really nice, sweet, rye spice with that. Again, those fruits that I mentioned before on the nose, the grape, the apple, the green apple, the pear, things along those lines. You really pick that kind of stuff up. So, and it does mention, okay, so like kind of a tropical fruit. So yeah, I guess if you blend a lot of that stuff together, you get kind of that tropical fruit type of nose. That's exactly what this has kind of become. So combined with a really nice rye note. So let's go ahead and we'll give this a taste. So cheers. Really nice, balanced rye whiskey that you can tell has a bit of finishing to it. What exactly that would be, maybe a little bit difficult at times, but you're still picking up a lot of that even on the palate. That dried kind of fruitiness that's there. So really nice, just well balanced rye. Lets you know it's a rye whiskey. That's for sure. That spiciness is there. The back of the palate, or mid palate, I should say, leaves kind of a nice little like rye kind of tingle to it. That's really enjoyable. Not heat or anything, but it lets you know you're having a really good quality rye whiskey. And I would say, I mean, for me lately, I've really been enjoying a lot of the rye whiskeys. I'm not always a huge fan of super old rye because it gets to be a little bit too much dill for me, and kind of that pickly type of influence. I'm not a huge overly aged rye fan, but when you've got a mid aged rye, I think it's kind of a perfect area for rye to be. So they've done a really nice job with this. So, but again, I'll be interested to find out what, like I said before, what is typically, put into the French oak barrels. It's something I'd be interested to know. So, and I'm sure you guys have probably already commented on some of that stuff. So, and I wish I could read a lot of these. I'll have to figure out why in the world the chat portion didn't work this time, but I'll have to figure that out for next time. So I apologize. But so what I want to do is, let me just go back and kind of try this again a little bit before. Yeah, really nice quality rye whiskey. You can tell it's got the finishing influence to it for sure. Not overpowering. It's not dominating the rye flavor. I mean, if you're having rye, I mean, you want rye because that's the flavor that you want. But this adds just a little bit of that finishing touch to it, which makes it really nice and pleasant, I would say. So, a really quality rye. So let me add, actually, let me do this. And maybe what I'll do before I add the water, maybe before I or after I'm done with this review, maybe if you guys want, you can let me know if you want me to do it or not. But maybe I'll do a like a continuous live stream, and then try to maybe bring the camera in, just kind of have a pour with you guys. Maybe we can do something like that if you have time to kind of stick around a little bit. So let's do this. Let's just add 3 little drops here and see what that does. So yeah, really just kind of the water is wanting to kind of bring out a little bit or a lot of that extra kind of sweetness. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, just I would say for the most part, I don't think the water did a ton for that. And I that's usually kind of the case with ryes, is that it can get a bit dominating, or I shouldn't say overpowering, just because of the rye influence. I mean, it's a heavier spice, and so to change that flavor profile is a little bit more difficult. And I don't want to bring down the proof. I mean, we're already at 90. I don't want to bring it down, much more at all. I think it starts to taste a little bit too watered down once you add too much water. So, I don't want to tell anybody how to enjoy whatever it is that you like, but I think at times, too much water gets added, thinking that just a spoonful or 2 spoonfuls of water into 2 ounces of something is a huge amount of dilution. So it really changes the flavor profile of all of that. So but again, drink what you want and how you want. So, but anyway. Yeah, really nice rye whiskey. So again, that sweetness, that fruitiness is there. You can tell it's a rye. I mean, it's spicy. That mid palate is really nice from the standpoint of just sitting there kind of on the middle or even back of the tongue is just a really nice flavor. So anyway, so hopefully everybody that tuned in, again, I apologize that the chat portion wasn't working very well or at all. I usually really enjoy the interaction with all of you guys. But hopefully next time I'll get that part tuned in a little bit better than it is. So, but anyway, so again, just to kind of recap, I'll go back through kind of what these are a little bit. So we've got, again, their Filibuster Bourbon, their Boondoggler Whiskey, and their Filibuster Rye. A fantastic line. So, I would say or encourage you guys, hey, go check them out. See if it's something you'd like. I would highly recommend them from the standpoint of, if you really enjoy a finished whiskey in general, then these are fantastic. I mean, 90 proof makes it really easy to sip on. Cocktails. I guess here's what I'd say about cocktails. If you want something, if you're not looking for an overly proofed cocktail, meaning something that's super high proof that wants to dominate in the alcohol side of things, 90 proof allows you to have a nice cocktail that's, again, not overpowering, that allows you to maybe sip on it a little bit, kind of nice and slow. Well, I shouldn't say slow. I mean, you may drink it a little bit too fast, but still, it's from a nice standpoint of, being able to, enjoy the cocktail, not overpowering, good flavor, and with the finishing part of this, it's all of that. So it's fantastic. It would probably make a, really good Manhattan from the standpoint of, probably the rye the best. There's still a little bit of spice to it, and that would maybe hold up a little bit better like in a Manhattan. Now like an old fashioned, something along those lines, that tends to be a little bit on the sweeter side of things anyway. Either one of these, if you didn't mind, you know, a cider type of cocktail, then you could do that. But anyway, they'd all make great cocktails. So I guess with that being said, why don't we? I guess I'll probably wrap some of this stuff up and kind of call it a day. But I want to say, thank you to Filibuster Distillery for sending these to me for me to review. I've had a great time with this. And again, for all of you guys that have joined and left all the comments, thank you very much. Any contribution again to the channel is much appreciated. It's, as you guys all know, nothing is cheap nowadays to do. But anyway, that's not why I do it. I do it because I enjoy the camaraderie. You guys with all the comments. I see a lot of you not only in my reviews, the live streams, but other ones we all kind of chat back and forth. So that's important to me. So anyway, so if anyone's not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification. The bell notification is nice from the standpoint of, it alerts you to when I'm doing, new videos, new uploads, new live streams along those lines. It gives you that kind of that alert. And then, other than that, that's basically it. So with that being said, again, thank you to Filibuster Distillery for providing the samples. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers, guys.